Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to summer. And no worries, we're not having the evacuation drill. It's raining. I'm Reverend Dina McFeeters, honored as always to serve as your associate minister here at First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. Our opening words are called Spilling the Light by Teresa Soto. To what have we promised ourselves? To this moment in time and place, to this community, and even tenderly interconnected this planet. We promise ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings. We promise that there is something moving between us that we cannot tame and cannot measure. The chalice is a reminder that what flame we keep inside us cannot light the way. The light must spill to shine. The thing you must be is yourself, unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone as if you are made of something hard and unforgivable. You are human. You belong right here, right now. And together, we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, leaving only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth. Will you rise in body or spirit and join in singing There Is a Love, which is printed in your order of service.
We'll sing the first verse using me and I, and then we'll switch to us and we. Here we go.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Kimberly Tomchuk Carlson, and it is my honor to serve as your Minister of Religious Education. The story I have for you today is called The Two of Us Belong Together. It's by Michael Engler. It was a warm spring morning. The hare was just dragging a carrot across the meadow when he spotted the hedgehog. He'd never seen anything so prickly before. Tail twitching with curiosity, the hare hopped closer, and the two of them sniffed each other for a while. The hare liked the hedgehog's prickles. The hedgehog liked the hare's smooth fur. "Would you like a bite?" asked the hare, pointing at the carrot, and the hedgehog smiled. From then on, the hare and the hedgehog met every morning in the clearing by the stream. The hare liked that the hedgehog laughed so much, and the hedgehog liked that the hare knew how to have fun. And they were both so happy they had found one another. Sometimes they were so excited about spending the next day together, they couldn't sleep at night. All summer long, the hare and the hedgehog played hide and seek, or they lay and dreamed in their clearing. They watched fish blowing bubbles in the water, or they looked for carrots for the hare, or snails for the hedgehog. They liked carrots with snails best of all. The hare and the hedgehog became the best friends the forest had ever seen. Their friendship was as warm as hot chocolate, as sweet as honey, and as big as the blue sky above. One evening, as they said goodbye, the hare said, "Let's be friends for life." "Oh, yes," said the hedgehog, "let's be friends forever." The days became shorter and the nights grew colder. The summer was coming to an end. The hare and the hedgehog chased the first of the falling leaves. They gathered chestnuts and acorns. They wandered around the harvested fields. The hedgehog showed the hare how to roll up into a ball and lay very, very still. The hare was grateful because one never knew when that might come in handy. The leaves on the trees turned red and yellow and brown. In the evening, a thick fog rolled across the forest. Autumn had arrived. On one of those gloomy evenings, the hedgehog said, "Hare, I think I need to leave you." The hare was so shocked he could hardly breathe. Why did the hedgehog want to leave him? They were friends forever, weren't they? "Please, don't leave me all alone," he cried. "Don't worry," said the hedgehog. "I promise, I'll come back." "When?" said the hare. But the hedgehog didn't know. "But why?" cried the hare. But the hedgehog really didn't know why. But deep inside, he could feel that he needed to find a place that was safe and warm. When he thought about the hare, his heart ached. But still, he kept going deeper and deeper into the forest. He was so tired. Maybe he was joking, thought the hare to himself the next morning, and he ran to the clearing and he waited for the hedgehog, but the hedgehog didn't come. And he wasn't there in the afternoon either. By early evening, the hare was really angry, so angry that he shouted into the forest, "The hedgehog is a great big liar." And then he remembered the hedgehog was his best friend, and he was sorry for what he said. The hare didn't give up hope. He went to the clearing every day and waited. He waited as the last leaves fell from the trees. He waited as the frost turned the branches white. He waited as the first snow floated down from the sky. But day after day, the hedgehog didn't return. "Your friend is coming," croaked a voice behind the hare, and he turned around, and a crow was perched up on a tree, flapping his wings. "What do you mean?" said the hare. "Hedgehog is hibernating," the crow replied. The hare had never heard that word before. "It's when animals sleep the whole winter in a safe place because they can't find anything to eat under the snow," the crow happily explained. "They sleep all winter? What a strange idea. Don't worry, they usually come back in the spring," and the crow squawked as he flew away. The snow melted, the forest floor appeared. Crocuses and snowdrops popped up through the green moss, but the hare saw none of that because he was doing something that hares usually don't do. He was working deep underground. He dug and shoveled and scooped and scraped, and he built the biggest, most beautiful hare burrow the world had ever seen. When it was finished, he sat down at the entrance and he just waited. It was a warm spring morning deep in the forest, and the hare heard a rustling sound in a nearby leaves. The hedgehog sniffed the spring air. He yawned and stretched. You were asleep for a long time, said the hare. I dreamt about you, said the hedgehog. What did you do while I was away? I dug a burrow with room for the two of us, the hare answered proudly. Now you don't have to sleep alone in the winter anymore, and I'll never have to wait so long for you again. And the hedgehog smiled. The end.
I am sorry to share the news with you that there has been a death in our congregation, and we have a candle of life this morning. John Walker, the elder, died peacefully at his home of natural causes on Saturday, September 14th, 2024. John's family is having a private ceremony at Wisconsin Memorial Park, where he will be interred in their library. John was 76 years old and had been regularly attending First Church with his son, John Darren Walker, for 2 years. Those of you who sit in the back will remember him. It is our practice in this congregation to light our candle of life for a birth, adoption, or death among our members and active friends. Today, we light our candle of life in honor of John Walker. As we enter into a time of spoken meditation, followed by shared silence, followed by singing the hymn, Spirit of Life, I invite you to get settled where you are, in the pew or the chair, however that works for you. Maybe you need to wiggle your body a little bit. Bring your attention gently to your breathing. Notice the air around you. And if you wish, let your eyes soften. This meditation is called All That You Need Lies Within You by Angela Herrera. Consider this an invitation to you. Yes, you, with all your happiness and your burdens, your hopes and regrets. An invitation if you feel good today, and an invitation if you do not, if you are aching. And there are so many ways to ache. Maybe your heart is heavy or hardened. Maybe it's troubled, and peace can take up residence only in a small corner, only on the edge with all that is going on in the world and in your life. Ni modo, it doesn't matter. All that you need for a deep and comforting peace to grow lies within you. Once it is in your heart, let it spread into your life. Let it pour from your life into the world. And once it is in the world, let it shine upon all beings. May it be so.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. My name is Amanda Pansera, and I'm proud to serve as your worship associate. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies here. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all you are carrying with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We also welcome all the people watching online as we live stream this service. Hello, cozy, dry internet. We especially welcome guests joining us today. If you are a visiting guest, we invite you to fill out a welcome card located in the pew rack in front of you and drop it in the offering plates that will come around in a few minutes. Please join us for a social hour after the service across the hall in the Leanhouse Common Room. Some accessibility notes: you can find hearing assist devices and large print hymnals and orders of service at the back of the sanctuary, as well as worship activity bags for children and anyone who wants them. There is a fragrance-free area in the front right pews. If you're watching online, you can enable YouTube's closed captioning on your viewing device. Some announcements from our community. Are you seeking connection and belonging? Consider joining a monthly theme circle. Explore the schedule and frequently asked questions on our website, or stop by the membership table during social hour after service to pick up a flyer and talk to someone with an Ask Me tag. New this year are focused theme circles for parents, LGBTQIA+ identified folks, or writers. Registration deadline is September 29th, and theme circles will begin meeting monthly during the third week of October. Join Linda and Max Otto Hall at 12:15 today for a soothing sound bath to welcome fall. All are welcome, $15 cash entry at the door. Those with medical implants do require written permission from their doctor. We have two church events this morning that focus on election action. At the Sunday Forum, the pro-democracy Legal Eagles at Law Forward, Wisconsin will update us on voting rules in place for the November 5th election. Then join us at 12:15 p.m. at coffee hour for a volunteer fair to learn about the many ways to help get out the vote and support a free and fair election. Now I welcome you to share in our first church worship and purpose by inviting you to join me in a unison affirmation of our mission, which is printed in your order of service. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Every week we have an opportunity to practice our values through sharing our resources. Our pledges are at the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, the church shares half of all the non-pledged cash in our offering plate with a community organization, practicing our value of interdependence. Today, we share the plate with the Wisconsin Black Historical Society. I invite all children, youth, and RE volunteers to sing the first verse of the hymn, and then follow Reverend Kimberly to the Leanhouse Common Room, and then downstairs for RE. If your child still needs to check in, please accompany them to the common room. The offering will now be gratefully received as we remain seated and sing our children's recessional hymn number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me. May the practice of giving bring us joy. I was 23, a year out of college, standing at the check-in table for my first day of AmeriCorps orientation in Providence, Rhode Island. I knew no one, my only interactions to that point over email. At check-in, I was asked how my move went, and I said, well, I don't actually have a place to live. I had arrived to Providence by way of Lincoln, Nebraska, where I'd lived for the previous 5 years, for undergrad at the university, plus a bonus year after graduation, not knowing what to do with my life. Growing up, I'd aligned with an identity based on expectations of high achievement and upstanding citizenship. In Lincoln, 9 hours from everyone who'd ever known me, I floundered. Who was I? There was no script to follow, and it felt like everything I tried left me on the outskirts of finding an understanding of myself. On a fall day early in my sophomore year, I woke up a few minutes before my AM class was to start. As I hit snooze on my alarm for the 6th time, I looked out the window next to my bunk. I saw a group of my sorority sisters walking out together to the class I was, once again, going to skip. I felt like I was carrying that window with me wherever I went, a barrier between my identity and everyone around me. I'd participated in Greek Life Rush to be recruited into one of 14 sorority houses. Every house I stepped into, I felt like I was trying to be whatever or whoever I thought they wanted me to be. I even chose my top preference based on what my dorm mate was choosing. This reliance on others to define my identity meant I felt incredibly lost for most of those 4 years. I struggled to invite myself into relationships, to connect deeply with others, and I graduated still feeling like I was looking through that window, watching others in their celebration while I stood by and experienced joy secondhand. A year after graduation, as I started wondering if I'd be a career waitress, I applied for AmeriCorps to prove to my dad I was applying for jobs and I would not get this one either. In my final interview, when they asked me why I wanted to serve, I heard myself say, I think I've lost sight of my purpose and I'm hoping to find it. It was the first time I'd been able to articulate what I'd been feeling for those years. So when I got my acceptance to serve, I knew I had to go. Within several weeks, I was driving with my black Persian cat Stanley in the front seat across the country to a city I'd never been. I pulled into town past midnight, up to the housing co-op that I'd found through Facebook. The person I'd been talking with wasn't there, but a guy on the porch, several beers deep, said he knew the room they had open. We went up several staircases, past people sleeping on couches, and the house and estate he described as on summer rules. When we got to the top floor, he opened a side closet that was used as a litter box. Not had a litter box, was the litter box, to show me where my cat could relieve himself. And the human bathroom wasn't much better. We turned down a hall and opened another door, walked through someone else's bedroom into a tiny slanted ceiling closet with a twin mattress on the floor. This one's yours, he said. He walked out, and I turned to stare at the fluorescent yellow walls with a burning crucifix painted on the ceiling. In that moment, I realized I had to trust that I could figure out what was next, and it was not going to involve living in that house. So as I stood there at orientation, I shared that I needed to find a new home. I couldn't let this first setback be the reason I didn't stay. I finished gathering my paperwork, and a young woman tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Hey, I'm living with another girl here, and our apartment has an extra room. You could totally move in with us." We hadn't even exchanged names, and here she was inviting me to live with her, trusting that if we'd both shown up in a new city to do this work, I must be a person she'd want to share space with. I heard myself say yes, and we made plans to connect that evening. As she walked away, I looked around. There was no window anymore. I was standing in the scene, showing up to what became the first day of the rest of my life being fully and wholly me.
Thank you, Dawn. I was 23 years old, also. After dropping out of school for a while, I had switched colleges and switched majors. I had not made any new friends yet, but I wanted to, so I took a leap of faith. Months in advance, I bought 2 tickets to a concert that I really wanted to see, trusting that I would make a new friend at my new school and invite them, trusting that they would say yes. This was a far cry from the painfully shy young child I was growing up, the child who wanted to make friends with another child on the beach who had a similar passion for building elaborate sandcastles. Instead of just going over there and asking if we could build one together, like an extrovert would do, I carefully left my sandcastle, slowly inched my way closer to hers, gathering some small shells along the way. When she wasn't looking, I placed the shells on her castle. It was an offering of sorts, an invitation to relationship. But then I retreated back to my own castle. Later that week at camp, when we had become friends, I told her it was me who had placed those pretty shells on her sandcastle. She laughed and said, "Why didn't you just give them to me?" Why indeed? Well, because inviting relationship involves a certain amount of risk. Sometimes we are ready, sometimes we are not. What if we get rejected? What if they want different things from the connection than we do? What if we get hurt? What if we hurt them? What if we get used, manipulated? What if there's an extreme imbalance of expectations or energy exchanged? What if they don't show up? The extra concert ticket I bought was a symbol of faith in my own evolving process of inviting relationship. We're talking the early 1980s, so it was a paper ticket. And every time I looked at that paper ticket, I renewed my courage to seek new friendships. Then the moment arrived. I was walking down the hall in the Women's Studies department, and walking toward me was another student I had just started to get to know, who felt like a kindred spirit. I invited her to the Margie Adam concert at the local UU church. She said yes, and we are still friends to this very day. Amanda wanted you to know that she too became best friends with those 2 roommates at AmeriCorps. The relationship she was invited into led to her career and to meeting her life partner. You just never know what might happen when you say yes to an invitation or when someone says yes to yours. In his little book called Faith for the Unbeliever, UU minister Daniel Cantor writes about the concept and practice of trust. Who and what can you trust, he says. You might be a person who easily trusts others, or one who begins with suspicion. Most of us fall into one category or the other. Trust is an ingredient of faith that sometimes challenges us to give up some control or the notion that we are in control. It means finding comfort in change. Faith, excuse me, faith is what gets us moving in the morning or enables us to take on new challenges. Because every day, in some way, we move toward the unknown circumstances that will greet us. But fear can challenge this mindset, he continues. American culture plays on many fears and can make it difficult to live with a strong sense of trust in the world. Many of us are taught from an early age or from our direct experience that we cannot trust others. Sensationalized news stories, and I would add, outright lies and misinformation in politics and the media, teach that the only safe way to live is to fear the stranger and protect what we have at all costs. With this mindset, we can forget how much good there is in the world. The answer, Cantor claims, isn't to let ourselves become isolated. Study after study shows that social cohesion is good. It's good for our happiness and our health. And just as friends can increase our happiness, isolation can increase our desire for self-protection. I agree with what he says, but of course there is more to the story. We must complexify our understanding of risk when we encourage each other to invite relationship. Some of us arrive in community bearing scars from past or present trauma that come from a variety of sources in our experience. Some of us arrive here with scars from abuse or addiction, from religious bullying, from exile, from violence, and the real threats that come from the isms and phobias that are embedded in our culture. You know them: racism, sexism, classism, ageism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, and so on. I think we are generally aware of these dangers and harms that are so alive in the wider culture. I think we are generally aware of the injustices and wounds that they cause. But I wonder, how often do we consider that past and present traumas and the resultant fear and anxiety actually live and breathe within us as individuals and among our community at church? I believe we need to tend to our scars as holy and not dismiss them so that we can fit into whatever shape we think the community requires. Pesha Gertler claims her scars in her poem, The Healing Time. She wrote, "Finally, on my way to yes, I bump into all the places where I said no to my life, all the untended wounds, the red and purple scars, those hieroglyphs of pain carved into my skin and my bones, those coded messages that send me down the wrong street again and again. Where I find them, my old wounds, the old misdirections, and I lift them one by one close to my heart, and I say, holy, holy." Episcopal Bishop Stephanie Spellers writes in her book, Radical Welcome, "We are already here. The strangers, the outcasts, the poor, people of color, gay and lesbian and trans people, young adults, and so many more. We are already here. We resonate with our church's theology and traditions. We love our congregations and pray and labor for their health, growth, and ministry. That doesn't mean we feel welcome. Spellers was speaking to mainline Christian churches, but I wonder if we might say the same of ourselves at times. If those very personal and widely systemic scars and struggles for healing are within us and among us, not just beyond us, I wonder what medicine we need. I think inviting relationship is the medicine. And the medicine is simultaneously more direct and more subtle than we might assume. Alice Walker wrote in her poem, Medicine, "Grandma sleeps with my sick grandpa, so she can get him during the night medicine to stop the pain. In the morning, clumsily, I wake them. Her eyes look at me from underneath his withered arm. The medicine is all in her long, unbraided hair." The poem reminds me that sometimes the medicine we need is not an over-the-counter remedy obtained through anonymous transaction and taken in the isolation of our own home. Sometimes the medicine we need is to be fully and wholly ourselves in relationship, in community. To get there, we need to invite and be invited into deeper relationship. Inviting relationships as communal practice will help us build the world we dream about. And it takes practice. Here at First Church, we practice inviting relationship all the time, and we don't always get it right. We are clumsy and awkward at times, painfully shy, or too much in your face. We make assumptions. We sometimes succumb to guilt trips, even though this is a guilt-free religion, remember y'all. We strive to stay grounded in grace. And we practice inviting relationship, sometimes with hope and anxiety in equal measure. For without invitation, what is faith for? A few weeks ago, a friend of mine invited me to a training to become a poll chaplain in preparation for the upcoming election. I had never considered this role before. I didn't think I qualified. I'm not exactly a hit the streets kind of minister. He's already laughing. But the key is, because my friend invited me and said we could go together, I went. Our relationship led to this invitation. And the training itself was steeped in relationship. For example, I was surprised to learn that de-escalation techniques that I thought must be mysterious are actually relational. If someone gets agitated outside of the voting site, my job will be to go to them and say, "Hello, my name is Dina. What's your name?" If they get on their soapbox, my role is to say, "I hear that you feel strongly about that. Please tell me more." The invitation is the medicine. Many of you know that personal invitation is the foundation of community organizing. Many of you who are involved in community organizing have invited me into various causes and actions and have often received, I hope, a polite no with regrets. However, every now and then, I say yes. And that's the thing with inviting relationships. A particular invitation or timing might not be right, and then again, it might. We must keep inviting and respect each other's yes and no. Democracy works only with participation, and to get participation, It takes inviting relationships. One of the many challenges since the pandemic is that cameras on, cameras off switch that we carry in our minds from the endless Zoom meetings. So in inviting relationships, it can take sincere effort to relate to each other in person with a cameras on manner about us, truly showing up for one another. The lure to hibernate is real, no matter what the weather. The inertia is real, and that's what we need to invite ourselves out of. Cantor wrote, saying yes is a tricky thing sometimes. Knowing our limits and what we can reasonably bear is something that comes with maturity. We often have to make mistakes with yes to learn those limits. The Hindu philosophy of Vedanta teaches that to risk is to step out past our comfort zones, to know that we could lose everything we guard about who we are, and to go anyway because the reward might be a valuable change. The reward is gained by surrendering to something greater than solitary existence. And in reaching for the possibilities that the world offers, we often find a strength of heart and soul that we did not know we had. In June, the New York Times ran a 5-day series about friendship, challenging people to invite themselves and others into closer relationship. There were helpful hints about how to stay in touch, rejuvenate a connection, and make attending to friendship habitual. The challenge on day 5 was to go deeper by taking an emotional risk with a friend that you trust. One recommended way to do that was to ask a probing question, not an invasive question, a sincerely curious one. Questions like, for what in your life do you feel most grateful? Given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest and why? Is there something you've dreamed about doing for a long time? And why haven't you done it? And then the deeper one, if you were to die this evening with no opportunity to communicate with anyone, what would you most regret not having told someone? And why haven't you told them yet? Here at First Church, we practice inviting relationship through all kinds of small groups. Some are purely social, where you can make new friends, like circle suppers, whose registration ends today, just saying. Some are reflective, spiritual deepening, like the theme circles, whose registration ends next Sunday, where you can also make friends. And some are action groups, where people grow in their courage and trust in each other by taking action for a justice issue, where you can also make new friends. Some are exploratory, like the Defend Democracy Volunteer Fair today at 12:15. So what is your next move into inviting relationship? What is your edge that you're being called beyond? What new thing is love calling you to be? What new thing is love calling you to do? Because, as we know, the stakes are high. In the run-up to the election, for example, fear and anxiety is high, and lives are being threatened, most recently in Springfield, Ohio. Fear of the stranger is being leveraged and given more energy. And yet, people are showing up for their neighbors, for the stranger, for the other. People are offering radical welcome, which Spellers defines as the spiritual practice of embracing and being changed by the gifts, presence, voices, and power of the other, the people systemically cast out of or marginalized in society. Who is inviting you into relationship? And whom are you called to invite? May the invitation change us for good. Thank you very much, Don. The closing words are called A Love That Seeps Into Everything by Rosemary Watola Traumer. I wish you the peace that comes when we trust ourselves to meet everything that life brings. I wish you love beyond happy endings, the kind of love that seeps into everything, no matter where the story goes. May it be so. rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing hymn 108, My Life Flows On.